What happened to the once promising 145-pound contender, Calvin Kattar? He's 0-4 in his last 4 fights. I just want to talk about the 3 reasons why Calvin Kattar has been on this skid of late. Can he bounce back? We'll look to answer those questions in today's video. The first answer to the question that I have for what happened to Calvin Kattar is wear and tear and father time. This is the easiest one. He's getting older, but he's also taken damage, lots of damage. In the Max Holloway fight, this is the most damaging fight of all time. This is the most damage that anyone has taken in a fight ever. And I know this is the easiest one. He's just getting older and he's taking damage, but might as well get this one out the way because it's true. It's cliche, but it's true. He took 445 significant strikes against Max Holloway. That is ridiculous. No one has ever taken that many strikes. That fight should have been stopped probably even like after the 4th. Yeah, he was landing his own shots in there, but he was just getting beaten up so badly. That was a huge thing. The headshots that he's taken in his fights, he has to get close in the boxing range and he's going to get hit. He gets hit a good amount in a lot of his fights. And the other thing, wear and tear on the body, is when he tore his ACL against Arnold Allen. That's a big injury to come back from. And ever since he's come back from this injury, he hasn't gotten a win. So tearing your ACL, being on the bad end of the worst beating in UFC history, these are things that are going to contribute to your downfall for sure. And another thing is, I was going to talk about how he doesn't possess a lot of punching power, like his style. Yes, he does have knockout wins over Ricardo Lamas, Fishgold, I think, Shane Burgos, Jeremy Stevens. He's got some knockout wins. He hasn't had a finish since the Jeremy Stevens fight, which was with an elbow, but he doesn't pack crazy like Ilia Topuria. Well, who does? But like this crazy knockout threat. He's more of a guy who will hit you with combination punches, has a really good jab, and not like a Josh Emmett level power threat. He has to put combinations on you to get towards a finish, and he hasn't finished anyone since 2020. So when he's in that boxing range, in that pocket, he's going to have to take some shots to land some shots, is what I was going to talk about. And then also let it pop up, the 35 and over curse at divisions under 170. This is specifically in title fights. It'd be interesting to see the stat in non-title fights, but 2-31 fighters 35 years of age and older are 2-31 in title fights. The only 2 wins being Tyron Woodley. So Tyron Woodley has been the only person to win fights. So if you took the 170 class out of it and went 155 and under, it's 0-31. Which is pretty crazy. Once you get past that 35 mark, it seems, especially in the lower weight classes, you start to slow down. Your speed isn't there as much, and these lower weight class guys who are like 27, 28 in the prime of their career are usually going to have the edge over older guys in that division because the division is more skill and speed reliant, whereas when you go up to middleweight and up, like heavyweights usually hit their prime in 37. Like heavyweight champions can be older and heavyweight contenders are usually older. So this is definitely playing a factor, the wear and tear and the age, but that's the easiest one. Let's go on to the second reason. And that's his limited style. Calvin Kattar, very good boxer, but that's about all he's got. He's mostly hands. He has some good elbows, but he doesn't really have an effective kicking game. He doesn't offensively wrestle much, like mixing that in. He's pretty much got no submission threat. If he's going to win a fight, he's going to do it by beating you up with hands. His opponent knows that. He knows that. That's his way to win. Fighters now have that ability usually to mix it up, to be able to go to a kicking game, go to a wrestling game, like they have clinch game. They have that ability. Calvin Kattar is very one note in his ability. Beautiful elbows, really good elbows, and boxing. That's pretty much it. And it's going to be volume boxing. He's not usually knocking you out with one shot. So this predictability, when you look at fighters that he's lost to, guys, Josh Emmett, we'll talk about the Josh Emmett fight, but guys like Arnold Allen, even though that was a fluke injury, Allen has a kicking game. He's got a more varied striking game. Aljamain Sterling, great kicking game, not great boxing, but he'll mix in the wrestling, and that wrestling ultimately is a horrible matchup for Calvin Kattar, because we saw how defenseless he was when Aljo started to shoot takedowns. So Calvin's approach is pretty simple in terms of modern MMA. If you put that back in the day, maybe like there's other more simple approaches, but when you have guys today like Islam Makhachev who are incredibly well-rounded, I know that's the highest of the examples, but even a guy like Dricus, he can do so many things. He can fight out of both stances. He can kick really well. He can box really well. He can wrestle. He's got submissions. When you have just a limited skill set, opponents can build game plans around that, and you can't really build too many game plans around yourself with that limited skill set. I talked about that in my latest article, plug. But yeah, his style is just a little bit limited. What Kattar usually struggles with, on the feet at least, we won't even mention the wrestling, but he struggles with guys who can move well and can kick well. If they can keep it out of the boxing range that Kattar wants it, as Zalal did this past weekend, and keeping it in kicking range and not exchanging too much in the boxing, darting in and getting out, Kattar struggles with that. And of course, this is Kattar at 36 years old after a knee surgery. I'm assuming he got surgery, and on the back of 3 straight losses. So maybe a younger Kattar could have dealt with Zalal differently. But generally, a guy like Zabit kind of styled on him for the first 2 rounds before gassing out. If you can kick and you can move, like Aljo did on the feet, he wasn't really effectively kicking too much, but if you can kick and you can move and keep it out of boxing range and then shoot on Calvin Kattar, he's going to have a hard time. So the blueprint's there for it. And the third reason, I would say, is just the unfortunate circumstances that he's been in. We'll let the Zalal kind of moving around a lot. The clips that I found on YouTube weren't great, but the unfortunate circumstances. In the Josh Emmett fight, we'll talk about it soon because it'll pop up soon, hopefully. But in the Josh Emmett fight, a lot of people thought he won this fight. This was the fight that he had after the Giga Chikadze fight, which was one of his best performances. Lost to Max Holloway brutally, took a year off, which was good. He should do that. And then he came back, I think like midway through the year, to fight Josh Emmett. If he wins this fight, he goes on to probably fight for the interim title, because that is what Josh Emmett did. Josh Emmett, after winning this very close split decision, he went on and fought Yair for the interim title at UFC 290. Calvin Kattar would have been in that spot. But they gave it to Emmett. The fact that the 4th round went to Emmett on... Just look at the stats here. Kattar outstruck Emmett in every single round except for the 3rd. The 4th and the 5th, he really took, I think, convincingly. Emmett's corner, sorry. I remember saying, you've won the first 3 rounds. So Emmett kind of like coasted. But in the judging scorecards, they gave Chris Lee gave Calvin Kattar or Josh Emmett the 4th, which is just an insane card because Kattar clearly won that. So if you flip that the other way, the split decision goes to Kattar, and Kattar is fighting for an interim title against Yair. So that was big, unfortunate. And then leading into that fight, now instead of fighting Yair for an interim title, he's fighting Arnold Allen, who's a really good fighter, and obviously the unfortunate circumstance of him throwing the flying knee and tearing his ACL. So the third key, I don't know if I already said it, is just the unfortunates. He got plagued with some bad luck in back-to-back fights, losing a very close split decision that many thought he should have won, and then losing to Arnold Allen when he threw the flying knee and tore his ACL. So the unfortunates were a big thing, and now he's 36 years old on a 4-fight losing streak, and in the featherweight division, 36 isn't young, and his style is just a little bit too predictable, too one note. He's got very good boxing, but he doesn't really have anything else to go to. So when a guy can kick and a guy can wrestle, he's gonna have trouble. So that's my answer to the question of what happened to Calvin Kattar. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you for watching. Look at this beautiful library I have in the background.